Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. It's time for TWiT's annual audience survey, and we want to hear from you. Please visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It only takes a few minutes, and your anonymous feedback will help us make TWiT even better. We thank you so much for your continued support. twit.tv/survey. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Saturday, April 4th, 2015. This is episode 1175. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, or other Apple product is worth at Gazelle.com. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Hello! Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo's the number. Our home theater guru joins us just a half an hour from now to talk about home theater. We can talk about anything with a chip in it, though. I'm open. I'm up for anything. And if I can't answer it, don't worry. There's a million people listening. Somebody can answer pretty much anything. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. 8888 Ask Leo. So Friday, the Apple Watch is on sale. Okay, woohoo. 12:01 a.m. Pacific time. You can go online and order it. And then, of course, you can go into the stores that day and starting that day and continuing on the Apple stores. And you can make an appointment. I would make an appointment before you go in, at least on the first few days. And you make 15-minute appointments. You go and you watch and you look at it, and they're specially trained to help you purchase your new Apple Watch, and to actually literally to ask you, and would you like a new iPhone with that? At McDonald's, they ask you, would you like fries with that? Perhaps an apple pie for dessert. At the Apple Store, would you like a new iPhone with that? Don't leave without a fresh new iPhone to go with your brand new watch. It's going to be, we don't know yet if this is going to be a huge thing or if it's going to be a nothing or somewhere in between. Apple set this expectations by leaking, I think. Somebody leaked, I think it was Apple, leaking the number 5 million watches in the first quarter. I'm not sure. First year? First weekend? No. Although, boy, you look at how they can sell everything else. Man, these guys are brilliant. I've been reading a new book about Steve Jobs called Becoming Steve Jobs. People pretty much agree, and I think I have to. It's the best book yet about Steve Jobs. There's a definitive biography that was written with Jobs' cooperation, his last interviews before his passing a few years ago, called Jobs by Walter Isaacson. But a lot of people at Apple didn't like that for some reason. Johnny Ive said it was a terrible book. People who really knew him said, "Nah, it's not," which is funny because Steve gave all the interviews. But I think there were a couple of complaints. One, that Isaacson didn't really know much about the field. He wasn't an expert in technology, and so didn't kind of ask the right questions. And the other, that perhaps Steve manipulated him just a tad. Not that Steve would ever do that. And so the book is a little bit less accurate about the more complex Steve that's reflected in this new book, Becoming Steve Jobs. It's fascinating to hear the story unfold. Even though most of it, we kind of know the outline. What you come away with is that Jobs was just a complicated person, very complicated. Obviously a genius, and built at this point the most successful company in the world. Apple Computer. He did a lot of things right, a lot of things wrong. He certainly was hard to work with. The author Brent Schlender calls him a spoiled brat, a guy who didn't do well if he didn't get his own way, and always thought he was the smartest one, he was the right one. Never really had much. But then if he blew up. He had a short fuse. he'd feel bad afterwards. And sometimes even cry. just like a bratty little kid, right? I just cry. It's a fascinating story. I for one, I love biographies, and I like a biography that paints the person as a human as accurately as possible, because we're all fatally flawed, after all, in one way or the other. And so any biography that makes the person a hero, Henry Ford, a hero, Ben Franklin, a hero, is missing the true story, the full picture, because we're all human, right? Boy, Jobs was human. It's a highly recommended, fascinating story. But this watch is the first, to get back to the watch, this is the first thing brand new from Apple since Steve's passing. First new category. I mean, everything else was an evolution of the iPhone or the Macintosh or the iPad. iPad celebrating its 5th birthday on Friday. 5 years ago, Apple released its first iPad, $499. Pretty good piece of hardware. Got better over time and thinner, famously thinner. For some reason, no one really understands. Apple was just on some sort of just kick to get it as thin as it could, sacrificing even battery life for thinness. That's pretty thin now. Thin is in, though. We want thin TVs, don't we? The watch is not real thin. The watch looks like a chubby little golden pillow on your wrist. But it's the first generation. I imagine it'll get thinner. You can't make it too small. It's an interesting question. Somebody in the chat room is saying, well, is the watch really new? Or do we think that they were working on it before Steve passed on? No evidence in the interviews with Walter Isaacson that Apple was working on wearables at all. And it may be that Johnny Ive was thinking about it, but I don't think the technology was really there yet. The battery technology, the processor technology. Remember, the story of the digital revolution is primarily one of getting faster and smaller, faster and smaller, faster and smaller, faster and smaller. And 5 years ago, I don't know if we had the resources to make something small enough to be useful on your wrist. I mean, maybe. I would imagine Jobs and Johnny Ive, his chief designer at Apple, had talked to something about it. But all the evidence points to this is the first. It's certainly the first new category Apple has entered since the iPad 5 years ago. That's for sure. We don't know how much Steve was involved in it. I think the biographer might have known or might have said something if he had been, because after all, didn't he say, Steve, one of the things Steve was really focused on was television. We really think we've licked it, I think is what he said. TV is terrible to use. The user interface is terrible. We think we've solved that. And for that reason, since Mr. Jobs passed away 3 years ago, there's been nothing but a drumbeat, steady drumbeat. The Apple TV, the Apple. I don't think there is a new Apple television in the offing. So. But we got to watch a week. Well, not even a week. This Friday, you'll be able to get it. Are you going to? I'm curious. I have to. I'm not a good person to ask because I have to try it and give you some feedback and see. My suggestion would be do not buy the watch. Would be my strong suggestion. Certainly don't be the person in line. And you know what? If you hear me say that and say, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway, then you're probably the person who should buy it. But if you're asking yourself, should I get that watch? No, you should not. You should wait. It's not cheap. Even the least expensive one is $350. And they go up fast from there, as you know. Everybody's talked about the high end of it, $17,000. That's kooky. I know you're not asking, should I get that one? No one in his right mind would be asking that. But it's reasonable to say, is this going to be, first of all, no, don't even think about it if you don't use an iPhone 5 or later. You have to have an up-to-date iPhone. It requires an iPhone. It doesn't work without an iPhone. If you're not wearing a wristwatch today, you may, and a lot of us aren't because of the smartphone. Apple did such a great job convincing us to take off our wristwatches and use our phone, and now they're going the other way. Hey, make up your mind. I'm intrigued. I absolutely am intrigued, and I will give you an honest opinion after I've tried it for a week or so. We won't get them till the 24th. So we can order Friday, and then 2 weeks after that, we'll be able to get one. And I'll have it that Saturday to tell you at least my first impressions. That's why I like this job. I don't have to think about, oh, should I get that? No, I have to get that. That's not even a choice. I like that. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Your call's next. Yada-da-da. Can I change the meerkat view from portrait to landscape on the iPad? Why are you asking me? I don't know. let me launch. Let me launch the meerkat. No, you cannot. Unless it's locked. Wait a minute. No, orientation is not locked. I'm seeing other stuff sideways. But Meerkat still wants to be portrait mode. Log in with Twitter. Let's log in with Twitter. We did a long Meerkat yesterday, taking a ride out into the country. Let me just stream and see. I'll tell you. Meerkat would like to access, yes. Well, I am streaming. And I am streaming sideways. And there's a blue egg watching me. Hello, blue egg. Now let's go to Meerkat. Where did I get TWiT branded Segways from? Wouldn't you like to know? We put a sticker on them. Yeah, we had them specially made. TWiT branded Segways. MeerkatStreams.com.
Zach and I are concerned that you are off-center, but the camera is panned all the way right if you go without seeing the monitor.
Off-center on which camera? 1 or 2?
You're just a little off to the side.
Well, I can move around. It does, yeah, see, I'm a movable feast.
We had some concerns.
I think it just moves around. Okay, so so I'm streaming it now. See, I think Meerkat still wants to be portrait. See, doesn't it? 217 people were watching. I don't know why. I'm just testing to see whether Meerkat has somehow changed to be sideways. And it hasn't. It's still this way. So you still want to use Meerkat like that. That's how you want to use the cat. The Meerkat. That's one of the things I like about Meerkat is it finally puts paid to all those people who used to say, "Oh, you're holding it wrong. You're shooting wrong. You should be shooting landscape." I think the smartphone begs to be done portrait. Don't you? Does sound not work without headphones and Meerkat? I don't know. No, I actually like Meerkat better than Periscope. But, you know, what we're doing this week in Google this week, and Kevin Marks, who was one of the authors of QuickTime for Apple, said a very smart thing. And he's absolutely right. He said live streaming is about the ego of the performer. It's not convenient for the viewer. Duh. That's obvious. And so live streaming and Meerkat and Periscope too, they're very smart. They feed the ego of the streamer. They apparently knew this. Periscope has the hearts, so you tap it, you send a heart. This you see the icons of all the people following you, and you see the chat talking to you, and your Twitter stream fills up with. It's all about ego, and very little about viewing. So I haven't done a lot of Meerkatting because I only want to do it when there's something to see. You can watch this in much better quality at live.twit.tv. One more thing. Steve Jobs' trademark. I think I don't know about you, but I feel like a Pavlov's dog when it comes to Apple events. that he just knows how to ring that bell and make me salivate. And then, after the event, it usually takes a day before the reality distortion field wears off. And you go, oh, I don't really want that. Or, oh, that really isn't useful. Or, oh, that's really too expensive. But during the events, it's like, oh, I must have. Take money now. I've been at Apple events in San Francisco at the Moscone Center, where they used to have their events, and that was only 2 blocks from the big San Francisco Apple store. I've been at events where people ran out the door as soon as the event ended, ran to the Apple store to buy it before the reality distortion field ran out. That is a mistake. So that's why I'm saying do not buy the Apple Watch now. Unless you can overrule me. You can overrule me. But if you have any, well, should I? Don't. Wait and see. And if you can hold out for the version 2 or even 3, do, because it'll be better, right? This is a first generation. Always a bad thing. I'm so glad I don't have to decide. 8888 Ask Leo. The decision was made for me 30 years ago when I became a technology journalist. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Heather Hammond, the phone ranger, is taking your calls, preparing you for your big moment on stage, on the national stage.
Oh, don't do that to them.
I know, that makes them so nervous, doesn't it?
They're already freaked out just getting through.
I know. What? The phone? The answer? What? Hello?
Oh, sometimes it's like, I can't believe I got through.
I know. Well, it's so hard. I know. I feel bad about that.
Oh, my God.
But then I think, well, I feel bad because we have, 6 lines, and there's 1 million people listening, and probably, 5,000-10,000 trying to get through at any given time. And so your chances are low. But then I think, wouldn't it be good if there were fewer people watching the show and I could help everybody who calls?
Aww.
And then I think, no, that sounds like a fate worse than death. Just what I want to do for the rest of my life: answer tech support calls. I can handle it 6 hours a week. That's about it. I really feel for the people who do this for a living. It's hard. It's really hard because you want to help people. You know how I know? My daughter called me this week. Dad, she's in college. Dad, my printer won't work. Ruh-roh. That's the call you never want to hear. I told Heather this when she started. Please. You don't ever want to. Okay, turn the printer off and on. Turn the computer off and on. Unplug and plug it in back again. Okay, now uninstall the driver, reinstall the driver. I mean, it's just tedious, and there's really no. And by the way, I did that. Spent probably half an hour doing all the things. The next morning, she calls me. It's working. Overnight, it got better. It's it's the worst.
Okay, so there you go. No one call with a printer problem.
Oh, you can call because you know what? I'm here for you. I get paid to talk to you for the next few hours. Heather, who should I start with?
The answer for the printer problem is to go to sleep and wake up, and it'll be
better.
Apparently.
Ta-ta. Take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning.
Well, George should take out about 1,000 callers because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering this. George.
See, that's what I like to do, is the call that everybody's wondering. One call solves it all. George in Battleground. Is that the name of it? Battleground, Washington. Hi, George.
Hi, Leo. Nice to talk with you.
To my memory, there was no big battles ever fought in Washington State.
No, there wasn't.
So, okay. So is it aspirational town name?
I'm not sure. I just moved up. I kind of miss it because when I lived down in Southern California, I was able to listen to you all 6 hours.
Well, hey, all 6 hours are on the internet.
Just get a recap on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, if your local station doesn't carry us, call them and say, please carry us. But you always have the internet if you.
Right. Exactly.
So what can I do for you?
Well, 2 years ago, my wife and I both jumped into the smartphone market and got our Samsung S3s. And since our contract is about up, I think with the S6 just coming out, and I haven't heard anything that bad about it yet. We were thinking about upgrading to the S6s.
Boy, that is a sterling. I haven't heard anything that bad about it yet. I'm getting mine Tuesday because I did order, and I ordered, and I'll tell you, I think this is probably not the thing to do. The curvy one, the Edge, where the screen goes over around the sides like it's melted. I don't know why I ordered that one. Everybody, there have been reviews out now. Reviewers have gotten a copy, and the reviews came out this week. Most of them say, Actually, the unbendy one, $100 less, is just as good, maybe even better, more elegant. It's really the first elegant Galaxy S phone because it's made of aluminum, glass front and back, kind of like the old iPhone.
Right.
People are saying it's gorgeous.
We're looking just at the standard 6, but my question was battery life.
Yeah, and that's my question too. And I will tell you certainly next weekend when I'll have had it for a few days. But the reviewers are, you know what's interesting? This one is going to be really hard to judge. What the reviewers are saying is battery life is wildly inconsistent. I'll tell you why. They're using, this is the first one in the U.S., the first time they've been able to use Samsung's own Exynos processors in the U.S. This is the CPU. And the CPU and the screen are the two, biggest consumers of battery life. You don't want the processor working too hard, and you don't want the screen on all the time. But one of the things they've done with this one is there's eight processors in here. It's an octo core. And there are 4 on 2 chips, and one chip is a slower chip and sips battery, and one is a faster chip and chugs battery life. And apparently the amount of battery life you get depends on how much you do with the phone that gets that big chip turned on. The less that chip is turned on, the better the battery life on the phone. I suspect over time you'll see utilities come out that allow us to control that a little bit better. But right now we're hearing battery life all over the place, like barely makes it through a day, easily gets to the night. And I think even the same reviewers had 2 different experiences from day to day. Now, the problem with this one, unlike the one you have, the S3, in fact, everything up to this one, you can't peel off the back and put a second battery in. That's what I do with my Note 4 all the time. It's the main reason I use a Note 4 is because I can have 2 batteries, which I do, keep one charged. And if I'm going somewhere where I won't be near a charger, I just bring the second battery with me. I love that. I've done that for years, going back to the S2 and the S3.
Right.
You can't do that with this one. You can't take the back off. It's beautiful now instead of functional. You also don't have an SD card, so you're going to want to get as much memory as you think you need. I think the 64 gig for most people is enough.
Okay.
They do make a 128 if you need it.
Well, my question was, do I need to worry about when I either recycle the old phone, do I need to worry about any kind of information remaining on that phone?
Well, depends on how paranoid you are. You do wipe it. You can wipe it if you go into settings. There's a backup and reset settings, and you go in there and you can wipe it, put it back to factory state, which I always do. But we know that SSDs, the solid state drives, flash memory, like in a phone, like in some computers now, is not totally erasable. So it's conceivable, but I don't think a serious problem that there is some data left on there. But do the backup and reset.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think you'll be better off if you do that. And if you're not worried about, spies, I think it's sufficient. And then tune in next weekend. I'll let you know what I think. Now we have a 282-second break. Wow. I'm excited about the S6 just because I think it's beautiful. And I've gotten used to the Samsung way of life. But, I won't be carrying it for a while because in 2 weeks, I guess I get 2 weeks of the S6 before I have to go back to the iPhone so I can test the Apple Watch. Do you think I have to take 2 phones with me from now on? Oh, that'll be a pain. Why am I even meerkatting? Yeah, I could use a Mophie case or something. This actually is the rock form case, and I use it because it's got a big bad magnet on it. It sticks to anything metal, so it's really handy for just kind of leaving. And then it has this slotted thing that you could put a special holder in. I'm sorry, I'm talking to Meerkat. You know what, Meerkat? Go to live.twit.tv. I'll talk to you over there. Thanks, everybody. Yes. It's silly. I've spent $1.5 million to build a streaming studio. Why am I streaming on my iPad? I even have like multi-cameras and stuff, and I can give you a close-up. So I love this. This is rock form. So that's a big, powerful magnet. And then this little notch, you could put things in like, tripods. There's also a knob you could put on your dashboard. My old Mustang had a knob. I put the knob on the dashboard. But now I use the magnet. I've actually put a giant magnet on my rearview mirror, which I'm sure is highly illegal. So now, but see, Meerkat, it's no good for Meerkat because it's this tripod is like sensible and wants you to shoot in landscape mode. I don't think a magnet on the back of the phone hurts anything, believe it or not. And it just sticks to everything. It's such a good magnet. You just pop it right on here. Dong. Dong. Isn't that good? Look at that. Yeah, I know. You are old school. There's nothing that obstrues. There's nothing except your floppy disks. Don't use floppy disks on your iPhone with the magnet. But actually, magnets don't hurt anything. Isn't that odd? You'd think so. But these devices, they got there's no hard drive. There's nothing magnetic in here. Yeah, don't see. So that's the thing. It's from old days when magnets were bad on CRTs and floppies and stuff like that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson is the only guest on the show that doesn't have like a theme that has to do with his profession, unless somehow Bumpty Bump has to do with home theater. I think it's a subwoofer, right, Nathan?
It's a subwoofer issue, yes.
Yeah, it works. Hello, my friend, Scott Wilkinson. He is the editor-in-chief at the AVS Forum, avsforum.com, and also our podcast host for the Home Theater Geeks show, which you can see on my podcast network, twit.tv/HTG. And we love that show. Always fun, always enlightening. If you're really into home theater, that's a great show to listen to.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So what do you want to talk about today, Mr. W?
Well, let me first mention to everyone that AVS Forum, the website I work on during the week, is having a contest. All you have to do is fill out our reader survey, and you could win one of 2 SVS speaker systems. We've been doing some reviews of SVS speaker systems. Really high quality, really low price, excellent value. So chance to win a couple of them.
That's nice. That's nice.
Just wanted to let that out there.
It's avsforum.com.
Correct.
All right.
Absolutely right. It's on the homepage. Go check it out.
Yes.
So I got a couple of interesting emails, as I always do. I get many, in fact. And here's one from a guy named Phil. And he's a longtime audiophile. And he's interested in Atmos and all that stuff. But really the crux of his email to me was he bought a Pono.
So we should explain Atmos is Dolby's surround sound solution that has sound coming from above you as well as
correct
left, right, center, back, left, right. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's what's called an immersive sound system.
And Pono is this new thing from Neil Young that I have one. It's a portable audio player that plays back high-res music.
Right. Exactly. So these are 2 completely different things.
Unrelated.
But as an audiophile, this guy says he's a longtime audiophile, so he's really concerned about audio quality. And I was very interested in what he had to say about the Pono, which has this, as you said, high-resolution audio. So CDs have a certain resolution defined by the sampling rate that they use and the number of bits they use to represent each of the samples. And that's typically known that they use 16 bits and a sampling rate of 44.1 kilohertz. All that means is that that can basically represent all of the audible sounds that humans can hear. But now we have this high-resolution audio thing going on where you can buy music that was recorded at a higher resolution than that, presumably with better sound quality.
And we should say that music is always recorded in a higher resolution and degraded to put on a CD. But the question a lot of people ask is, well, can you hear the difference?
Right.
And that's an outstanding question.
It really is. And this is in fact the question that Phil is addressing in his email. He says, I was not blown away by the high-res tracks. In addition, I was disappointed by the expense to get the 192 24 albums. That's sort of the highest resolution you can get today, and found them only marginally better than my ripped CDs, which he ripped to what's called FLAC, F-L-A-C.
He said some interesting things because, first of all, the expense is $8 generally. It's about 18. Most of the CDs I buy at hdtracks.com are $18 for the high res. So that's, I mean, how much does a CD cost in the store? Usually more than 15.
No, I wouldn't say
10,
15. Yeah, 10 or 15.
10 online, but you're buying MP3s if you buy online.
That's correct. That's correct.
So it's only slightly more expensive in my opinion.
Slightly more expensive.
And secondarily, he says I could tell. He says he can tell the difference.
Yes, but he was not blown away.
But yeah,
that it wasn't a tremendous difference is what he was saying.
It isn't a tremendous difference. That's why people debate whether there's a difference at all, because it's hard to tell.
Right. And the other thing that you and I have talked about before that I think is so important and often gets lost is the quality of the reproduction system. You know, if you have really high quality headphones or really high quality speakers and amplifiers and everything along in the signal chain, then yes, you will hear a difference. You recall the high-res experiment I conducted on AVS Forum some time ago, where the people who had systems that were not capable of high resolution chose. I said, "Here's 2 tracks. Which one's high-res?" They're disguised, and without the high-res systems, 50% chose the correct tracks. So it was, by chance. Wasn't any better than chance. Those who actually had high resolution capable systems chose the right tracks 80% of the time.
See, that to me is statistically significant.
Well,
Obviously,
we only had about 50. We had about 50 people respond.
Oh,
so
it wasn't a huge number. Okay,
it wasn't a huge number.
Still, that's 80%. And what kind of is confirming is that if people had systems that couldn't play them back, they shouldn't have heard the difference.
That's right.
Right, there was no difference.
That's right. There couldn't have been any difference in the signal getting to them.
And by the way, most computers do not play high res back. There are very few smartphones. There's only one, to my knowledge, that plays back high res.
That's the HTC M8, right?
The Harman Kardon edition.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't even know if that does, to be honest with you. It's just,
I know that the HTC, I think it's called the M8 or M18, or I forget the exact model designation. I'm pretty sure that one does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then there's 2, because the Sony Xperia smartphone, one of them, the most recent, I think, plays back high res. But the Apple iPhone, for instance, cannot.
Yeah. Its hardware is limited to essentially CD specs.
Right.
So this was a very interesting thing, because a lot of audiophiles will swear up and down about how much better high-resolution audio is. And here is a self-proclaimed audiophile saying, it's maybe a little better. Is it worth the extra money? He's questioning that.
Well, he may not think it's worth the extra money. I don't think, it's that much more money. And my philosophy is, and you know what? I'm too old. I cannot hear the difference probably. But my philosophy is, why not pay literally $3 or $4 extra bucks and get the original studio master. Now, what does make a difference is how that whether you are getting the master, how it was made, and on and on and on. And so and just remember when DVDs and then later Blu-rays came out, some of the original Blu-rays were terrible because they weren't doing a quality job of it. And that's the same thing with high-res tracks. There are a few that are really good. A couple that I've been listening to, Daft Punk's latest album, which is on HD Tracks, is really clean. There's a Natalie Merchant album is very beautiful and very clean. And here's an interesting one. It's not my favorite music in the world. It's good music. Paul McCartney's Band on the Run. There's 2 versions.
Oh, yeah?
And if you want to hear... The other thing that people talk a lot about is audio compression, how pop music today is so highly audio compressed.
Dynamically compressed.
Yeah,
dynamic range.
We're not talking about digital compression here, but the dynamic range compression, to make it sound better on AM radios, to make it punch on radio, that you're losing a lot of nuance. And so there's 2 versions of Band on the Run in high res, one uncompressed.
Wow, that's cool.
And that's quite interesting to listen to, because that is a noticeable, significant difference.
Yes.
So what I kind of celebrate is that the record labels are starting to say, well, let's give them access to the masters, before we junk them up, before we downsample them, and then you know, at least you have the highest quality available, and I think that's good.
True. I agree. That your point about dynamic range compression is really very good, because it's the same argument that we're getting now with Ultra HD TVs and visual dynamic range compression, or expansion in this case, where the new TVs we're talking about expanding the dynamic range of video signals, and the difference that makes.
All right, we got to run,
so
Scott.
big.
Thanks, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll have more right after this. Didn't want to get you into a whole new topic there.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I
wasn't
I
looking
showed
at
you
the
the actual countdown in case.
Look at that.
So you'd
Man,
see
I
it.
need that app. Can I get a copy of that app?
Yeah, actually. Do you have an Android device?
Yeah, I do have a tablet.
It's perfect on a tablet. I'll send you the APK. And then you can sideload it.
Yeah, cool, man.
Let me give you the con. You can continue on here.
Thank you. I'm happy to. Hey, everybody in the chat room. Glad to see you all here on this lovely Saturday, this lovely Passover Saturday. Had a great Seder last night and got another one to come to. Sea Sprite, yes, indeed. Regarding the 4 cups of wine at the Seder, are the kids required to drink them? No, usually they have grape juice there for the kiddies. So we had a great time on Home Theater Geeks last week, just doing questions from the chat room, answering questions from the chat room. And it was loads of fun. I had Chris Boylan on. He's the editor-in-chief of Big Picture, Big Sound, another of the great websites out there. Hey, X-Tomb, Virgil, nice to see you both here. I saw Loquacious. There she is. Nice to see you as well. Let's see. Oh, Crucial Wax makes a good point. For stereo FM, it has a sharp cutoff at 15 kilohertz. There's a stereo pilot signal at 19 kilohertz. I didn't know that. If there is at 19, then yeah, it's got to have a steep cutoff at 15, which could introduce some phase problems. Not that you'd notice them in the car, which is mostly where people would be watching. Mike Sir asks, how reliable are Vizio TVs? Thinking about getting a P series. Well, I think Vizio TVs are pretty reliable. I've had one in my house now for a few months, and it's working great. The bigger question is whether or not to get the P series, which is their 4K or Ultra HD television. And I've been talking a lot about this lately, and my general feeling is it's not yet time to get a 4K TV. Now, in the case of Vizio, the P series is so inexpensive that it probably doesn't matter. But at a normal screen size, at a normal seating distance, we say that the normal seating distance is around 10 feet, in which case you need at least a 70-inch TV, or I'd say 70 inches is ideal, for 1080p. So if you replace that then with a 4K or a UHD TV, you're not going to see much difference at all in the resolution or the detail because your eye can't resolve that much detail. What's more important, much more important, and what I unfortunately didn't have time to talk about in the segment is expanded dynamic range, or high dynamic range as it's called. And if you increase the difference between the black and the white in the TV and in the content, you're going to see a huge difference, a huge improvement. Just like, as Leo pointed out, with audio, if you don't compress the dynamic range and give us all the dynamic range in the audio, it sounds a whole heck of a lot better. Same thing with TVs and dynamic range. Now, we don't have any high dynamic range content coming out yet, but we expect it probably this year or next year.
I have to say, it's a very different album when you listen to it without the heavy audio compression they put on. Of course, remember, this album came out when? In, gosh, it must have been the 70s, right? So it was still it was AM radio. If you want to get a hit, you want to play on the AM radio. And AM radio in particular, they wanted it to sound really what we call punchy. Most radio stations still use devices like optimods and compressors, or band and so forth, where they even after they play the already compressed music, they compress it even further. The idea, the thinking being, and I think it's probably silly, but the thinking goes back way back. Remember the Boss Radio in the 60s? To the idea that if you were tuning down the dial, remember tuning down the dial? Some of you don't. If you were tuning down the dial and the station didn't grab you in that second that you passed it by, that you may not come back to it. So the idea was, no matter what was, that's why we also have the rule, no dead air. See, if I'm not talking and you're tuning by, you're not even going to know there's a station there. I think those rules are old. I don't think we have to worry about that. So maybe, hey, record industry, you could stop compressing so much, because we don't need it to be so punchy all the time. Although your ears get used to it. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number, 888-827-5536. Bill's in San Bernardino, California. Hi, Bill.
How you doing? Thanks for taking my call there, by the way.
Thank you for calling. What can I do for you?
Well, look, my daughter's out in North Carolina, and she's on Facebook, and she takes quite a few pictures out there, and she has on Facebook a lot of albums.
Yeah.
She's asking me how will she save that as far as downloading them on a flash drive or some sort like that, or maybe a combination of the cloud and the flash drive, or whatever you have in mind here. I'm kind of baffled.
Well, first thing I'm going to say, which is really important for everybody who's thinking of using Facebook as some sort of digital backup of your photos, before photos, and by the way, everybody does, before photos go on Facebook, they squish the heck out of them. So the quality is heavily reduced. Okay? That's the first thing to know. It is, of course, there. In fact, there are, if you use Facebook apps on your smartphones, there's a setting that says just upload every picture I take to a private album on Facebook. And it's a good way to think of it as backup, but they're not the original quality photos, and they're heavily squished. And you may not notice the difference, in which case it's fine. But if you do say, I love this picture, I want to print it, you will notice it then. Okay. So if she has the original somewhere else, those are the ones she wants to save and keep and preserve forever. And she should do it on a her local drive or a Carbonite, or there are actually Flickr and Google Plus and Microsoft OneDrive and now Amazon all offer backup of the original photos. Some for free.
What about on my Facebook?
Anything you put on Facebook is going to get heavily compressed. So you can download them, which is one by one.
Yeah, this is not going to work.
One by one. Now, I have seen plugins, third-party plugins, that let you do this. There's one, if you use the Chrome browser, called Download FB Album Mod. And this is really kind of just a hack.
Okay, gotcha.
That you could install on you need to be using the Chrome browser. It's free. And then what it does is it does something we call scrapes Facebook. Facebook doesn't provide a automated way to do this, but you can do it. It's actually pretending that it's clicking in effect, and it will allow you to kind of get them all at once. But again, my strong advice is not to use Facebook as your backup. If that's the only place she's got those pictures, then get them now. Because you never know. Facebook. Remember,
that's what she's afraid of.
Yeah, that's not your site. That's Facebook's site.
That's correct.
And anything Mark Zuckerberg decides to do, from shutting down Facebook to shutting down you got no recourse. So I would never trust any one site. But as I said, Yahoo's Flickr, Amazon now has a very low cost upload. All your photos will save them forever. OneDrive, if you use Microsoft Office, if you pay for an Office subscription, is unlimited and free. That's Microsoft's solution. Flickr offers a free terabyte of storage, and Google Plus offers a significant amount. I don't know what the amount is, but a significant amount of storage for free, where you can upload them. And if you turn that on your phone, if what you're mostly doing is taking smartphone pictures, you turn that on your phone, all your pictures are backed up there. That is a great way to go, and I do it. And I usually back up to 2 places. Now, you may want to be careful about bandwidth usage. If you pay for, extra bandwidth on your cell carrier, do it only on Wi-Fi, and there's check boxes in all these cases for that reason. But that is a good way to back up. Facebook is not. Facebook squeezes the heck out of them. And again, you may not notice on a small screen on a smartphone. That's why they do it. But you will notice if you try to print them. They'll be soft. Robert in San Diego, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Leo. It's an honor and a pleasure to speak to you.
Nice to talk to you.
And my question for you, Leo, is in January of 2003, I became blind, visually impaired
I'm
in
sorry.
both eyes. And, well, actually, it's been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so I missed the smartphone revolution and tablets and everything, but I listened to your show. And my question for you is, there are hundreds of books available on Amazon in electronic text form, and I would like to have them read to me. And I was wondering, is there any way to do that? At home, I have an internet connection, and my caregivers plug into the Ethernet here, and so I was wondering if there's any way I can access these electronic texts. Now, unfortunately, Amazon doesn't have these texts for the books that I am interested in available in audio CD or in MP3.
Yeah. So Amazon owns a company called Audible that many books are recorded, and they'll be professional readers. But you can get robot voices to read to you. If you own a Kindle, and by the way, this is a great reason to get a Kindle, the Kindle will read any book on your Kindle to you. It's not a bad robotic voice. It's a decent voice, but it's a robot, so it's going to make strange mistakes. It's not as good as a human reader, although human readers occasionally make strange mistakes, too. I'm listening to a book right now where they say Silicon Valley all the time. It's driving me nuts. So your Kindle will do this for you. Here's one problem, though. Some publishers disable this feature. Amazon put this in as an accessibility feature. I thought it was a great idea, and publishers said, no, we want to sell audiobooks. So Amazon gives them the right to disable it for any given book. So you should always check before you buy the book to make sure that it can be read aloud in your Kindle. Kindle apps will do it, too, on your iPad, your iPhone, your Android device. So if you have one of those, the apps will also read to you. So that is a great feature because it'll read you almost anything. I would love to open up the conversation, too, to anybody who has some other suggestions for audio books. I love Audible. I listen to Audible all the time. They're pricey. It's like buying a hardcover edition of the same book. But, boy, it's nice to have somebody read to you. Hey, good luck. Thanks for the call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. The federal government has a program called Books for the Blind, totally free books with a player, and the books are up to date. So check with the government. Listening library for the blind also. So there are free audio solutions as well. Come on in.
Well, let's see. I've been talking to people in the chat room. Java Man is looking for a small-sized AVR, AV receiver. And this is a very interesting question, actually. There aren't very many. He points to the Marantz NR1403, which is a small size. I was just starting to look for some other ones online, and it would take me a little longer than I have right at the moment to look into that. But I did at one point some years ago, and I remember the Marantz. I think Sherwood used to have one, but I don't think they do anymore. I'm not 100% sure about that. But the Marantz is certainly a very small, very thin. A lot of people also look for a narrow depth, a shallow depth, I should say, because they maybe have a space-restricted shelf or something that they want to put it on. And when you get a receiver, not only do you have to count the depth of the receiver into the calculation, but also add some more space for the wires, for the cables coming in. Unless you use nothing but L adapter connectors, which you probably won't have on all of them. You need a little extra space for those cables to be plugged in, and the connector thing to be there, and then the cable to bend out of the way. So it's something you have to keep in mind if you're going to put it in a space limited place like that. And I think that the NR 1403 Marantz is probably a good unit. Certainly, I like Marantz products generally speaking. So I wouldn't have any problem probably saying that that's the way to go. Of course, you want to do some research. I myself don't have any experience with it, so I can't say from personal experience. Avila Fane, I'm not sure how to say that screen name, is asking about 4K TVs. And he was asking, I think, about the Vizio P series, which is the most affordable 4K TV. Well, probably not. TCL might be cheaper, but of the major brands, I would say Vizio is the way to go. And the P series has been getting some good reviews. But as I say often, 4K by itself, that is more pixels on the screen, is not very impressive. What's much more impressive is high dynamic range. And we were talking about this with audio, and the same thing is true there. If you get more samples in the audio, yeah, okay, it sounds better, but how much better? Not that much. Depends on the equipment you're using, depends on your hearing capability. But what really makes a difference, as Leo pointed out, and rightly so, is having the full dynamic range in the recording, not this really highly compressed audio signal that they would use on radio or when they release most pop albums anyway these days, because it has more punch and it is perceived as being louder. So like that, we go into the TV realm, into the video realm, and we have a certain dynamic range that all content is mastered to. But we now are coming to a world where we will have TVs with expanded dynamic range, higher dynamic range, and we'll have content coming into them that has higher dynamic range. When that happens, and it hasn't yet, except in demonstrations, but when it does, man, oh man, that TV is going to look amazing, really amazing. You're going to be able to see the difference from across the room, no problem. Whereas if it's just pixels, you have to like walk right up to the TV to see really a significant difference. So the 4K TVs that you buy today are not going to have that high dynamic range capability. And another new thing that's coming is a wider color gamut, a larger palette of colors. And those TVs that you buy today are not going to have that capability either. Now, they're going to be able to play that content. It's just not going to look so much better as it will on TVs that have that capability. Now, Samsung has introduced this year what they're calling SUHD TVs, which do have high dynamic range and wide color gamut capabilities. But somebody in the chat room was asking me about whether or not they follow a standard. And the honest truth is I don't know, but I don't think so, because there are like 4 different high dynamic range standards that are currently out there being tested and being considered. Dolby Vision is probably the best known. SMPTE has its own high dynamic range standard called SMPTE 2084, sexy name for that. Technicolor has one, BBC has one. And so which one is going to be used? Ultra HD Blu-ray is going to use SMPTE 2084 with the option of using Dolby Vision. But it depends on what the TV implements. And at the moment, none of them have implemented any of them. Samsung notwithstanding. I have to do a little more research to find out whether they've actually implemented one of those standards or if they're using some symbol of their own, so a system of their own. So it's a really wild and woolly time right now. A lot of upheaval going on. So I generally recommend people don't buy 4K TVs these days. In this year and next year, you're not going to be able to avoid it. I mean, most of the manufacturers are simply going to churn out 4K TVs. And unless you buy, at the bottom of the barrel, that's what it's going to be. This year's Vizio M series, the middle of the line Vizio, are going to be 4K. Last year's were 1080p. This year they're 2160p, as Joe Kane prefers to call 4K or UHD. But they're not going to have high dynamic. Well, I'm not 100% sure about that. Vizio's having a big press event on April 13th, and my colleague Mark Henninger is going to that, and he will report from there what they have to say about the M series, the P series, and the fabled reference series, which somebody else in the chat room asked me about. Have I heard anything about it? And the answer is no, I haven't heard a thing about it. And it's really quite disappointing because at CES 2014, they introduced this amazing television, which had Dolby Vision high dynamic range, wide color gamut, and was able to actually reproduce this, what will be the new high dynamic range, wide color gamut content. And man, oh man, it looked great. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
Thank you, Scott.
The time I have. Thank you,
All right,
Leo.
see you later. Bye-bye.
You bet.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers and the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo's the number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. You could use Skype to call us outside those regions. Our website is techguylabs.com. Highly recommend techguylabs.com if you want to keep up with stuff. You don't even have to write down anything I say. For instance, our last caller wanted to get his Amazon books read to him, and I mentioned the Kindle will do it. Kindle apps on mobile devices will do it. But somebody, Battlecam in our chat room, very helpfully mentioned the federal government has a great free program where you can get books and an audio player. And of course, if you've got the cash, because it's not cheap, Audible.com has hundreds of thousands of great books. All the bestsellers come out, and those are read by actors or read, not by machines. I guess you get used to it, probably, the machine reading. But I like them. If I like somebody to read to me, like they understand the words they're saying out loud. We also talked about the techguylabs.com. That's the website where you'll find links to all of that stuff, including, if we can, James, get the government program link there so our caller can go there. Techguylabs.com. We were talking last hour about new stuff coming down the pike. There's always new stuff now. It really has become the gadget nation, haven't we? And I'm not sure that's great. I think it's probably wise, even if you could afford to get the latest and greatest all the time, to just slow down a little bit and get the most out of it, because this stuff's mostly going to go in the landfill eventually anyway. Let's not go crazy buying new things all the time. I do, and sometimes I complain about it because I have to buy all the new phones when they come out. I'm getting the Galaxy S6 Edge. I think I ordered it from T-Mobile. I think it's going to come Tuesday. And sometimes I feel like, gosh, I was just getting used to this phone. I got to get a new one, or it happens so fast. I'm excited about the S6 Edge, but then 2 weeks later, the Apple Watch will come out, and I'll have to start using an iPhone again. And it can be a little crazy, but there's a benefit to it. And there's a benefit, I think, to all of us in some ways, because it keeps our brains nimble, doesn't it? And young. As you get older, I'm 58. As you get older, sometimes you get more hidebound, and I like it in the way it has been always, and I'm going to keep it that way. And I think because I am so immersed in technology and this kind of constant, rapid change, and I'm required to by this job to keep up with it, make the effort to keep up with it, that I think in some ways it keeps your brain more elastic, more and younger, more youthful. It's certainly being open to change is a good thing, I think, because life is changing rapidly. And it does feel like that when you finally get enough of this, I don't want it to change anymore. That's kind of the beginning of the end, if you ask me. That's get off of my lawn time. So I'm as much as I complain, I guess it's good. I guess it's great that I get to play with all this new stuff and learn how to do it and learn how to use it. And I learned how to program in a different era. When I got my first personal computer, I learned how to write basic code, which nowadays people laugh and mock it. Went back and relearned and learned some better programming skills in C, and then I had to learn object-oriented programming. And now it's all web programming, and I have to relearn it all because I like to program for fun, write little bits of software for fun. And it's all web-based. I have to relearn everything. It's fun. It's like doing crossword puzzles, only more so. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Let's keep our brains nimble with this rapidly changing world of ours. Mike in Bakersfield, you're next. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling. What can I do for you?
I have a pretty complex issue, it seems. I have a Wi-Fi network set up in my house. I also have my house wired for Ethernet. So I was able to troubleshoot a problem I'm having. I have my 4K TV is set up through the Wi-Fi, and I'm able to stream even the 4K content fine. I'm getting about 26 down. And but when I go to connect either of my laptops, actually I had a laptop, and it was about 5 years old, and it started really acting up where it wouldn't load pages or anything like that. And so I finally got sick of it, and I know I wanted to get it backed up and get it wiped and restored and everything, but I just hadn't taken the time because I didn't do the legwork when I first bought it. So I went down, bought a new computer, hooked it up, figured, okay, that'll take care of the problem with doing the same exact thing as the other laptops. So I really don't know where to go from there. When I plug it into the Ethernet, it works fine. Both computers are blazing fast, but so my wireless, most of my wireless devices are fine. It's just the two laptops that they just don't load.
Don't load at all, or just load slowly?
Sometimes they'll load, but very rarely will it actually load anything.
Well, Wi-Fi, of course, is it's funny how complacent we've got about what Wi-Fi is doing, which is quite remarkable, sending quite a bit of data through the air.
Mm-hmm.
The earliest Wi-Fi, 802.11, without any A, B, C, or D, was 1 megabit, 1 million bits per second, and that seemed pretty fast at the time. We're now doing Wi-Fi that's much faster. You say you're able to do 25 megabits or 26 megabits per second download speed.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that something right next to the Wi-Fi access point?
No, it's about halfway between. The access point's actually in the back room and in my closet in the master, and I'm on the other side from there. But you know what, to tell you the truth, I'm in a new house. This is actually spanned two different services, Bright House, which is, copper cable that comes in, and actually I had AT&T, which is also copper at the other house too. So two different houses, two different services. I guess that's only about the similarity is the technology was the same on the copper.
Yeah, it's not them, it's you. So because you can tell the Ethernet's moving quickly, then it's not the service. You've eliminated a whole bunch of stuff, right? The service provider's providing the bandwidth appropriately. What you've narrowed it down to already is Wi-Fi. It doesn't work well with Wi-Fi. And there's a few things that make a difference with Wi-Fi. One is distance from the Wi-Fi access spot. The more distant you get, the fewer bars you get, the slower you're going to get. Interference, it's radio. So interference makes a big difference. And where the antennas are makes a big difference. And how it's positioned, what it's going through. Wi-Fi operates at two different frequencies. Both of them are microwave frequencies. One's 2.4 gigahertz and one's 5 gigahertz. 2.4 gigahertz goes through walls a little bit better than 5. The higher the frequency, the more likely it's going to bounce off of things. So, especially metal. So metal in your walls is no. In fact, Wi-Fi, usually those speeds are quoted line of sight within 150 feet. That's the speed, the nominal speed for Wi-Fi. You have neither line of sight, and I bet you've gotten more than 150 feet away. So there's a few things you can do. You could put a repeater, a Wi-Fi extender, sometimes they call them, between your access point and where you're trying to get. Sometimes that helps. I've got two repeaters in the house. I've got an access point in the living room, a repeater in my den, and a repeater in the gym because it's spread out. It's a single story, but it's spread out, and so that will help. Get a repeater that's made by the same manufacturer as your Wi-Fi access point. And it's often best to avoid interference to operate at the 5 gigahertz band, not the 2.4. That's the most crowded. I almost exclusively in my house use 5 gigahertz because it's a cleaner band and nobody else is operating in that band. You can tell, and I would suggest getting this using a Wi-Fi analyzer. That's a really useful tool. There are a variety of these for all machines and even for your smartphone that'll tell you what frequencies are in use, what the strengths are. And because if you put it in your phone, or a laptop, you can move around. Very handy for diagnosing these problems. You want to pick an uncluttered band. You want to put a frequency that's uncluttered, and you might want to reposition antennas to get the strength up. And ultimately, getting repeaters Wi-Fi extenders will help a lot. That makes a huge difference. But it's a black art. You've narrowed it down. It's not your provider. Everything's fine because it works with Ethernet. It's when you go wireless that you have problems. You've narrowed it down. You just have to improve your Wi-Fi. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And we will put in the show notes, we'll put some links to different apps that are appropriate for, I use Wi-Fi Explorer on Macintosh. That's very good. There's a great app. What is the app on Windows that we talk about all the time? There's a great app on Windows. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but but put one of those apps, or Android has apps and iOS has apps. Acrylic Wi-Fi, that sounds good. acrylicwifi.com. WLAN scanner, and that's free. So we'll put Insider is the one I was thinking of, though. INSSIDER, Insider. We'll put these links in the show notes. Those are all useful in diagnosing issues with your Wi-Fi. Our show today brought to you by Gazelle. If you're like me, a gadget hound, it gets hard to support your habit, but Gazelle is here to make it easier on both sides. First of all, selling. You could trade in your old gadgets at Gazelle, get top dollar. In fact, if you go to Gazelle.com right now, there's no guessing. You'll find out exactly what you're going to get. Actually, in some ways, that's a minimum. I've often had Gazelle, when they got the gadget, bump it up. We sent them a 4S. We got a quote for $34. I think it ended up being $72. So get the offer. The offer is good for 30 days, which is really nice. That means you've got 30 days to even decide. So there's no disadvantage to just finding out now what your old iPhone or iPad or Samsung phone, that Galaxy S3, find out what they're worth. BlackBerries, they buy tablets too, Surface Pro. They'll buy Samsung and Google tablets, the Nexus tablets. So get great prices. Then you get a check or PayPal credit, or you get 5% more if you get an Amazon gift card. That's a good way to go if you spend a lot of money on Amazon. 2+ million trade-ins, $200 million paid out to customers. People love Gazelle, but that's just one half of it. You can also buy a Gazelle. If you lose your phone or your tablet, it's a pain to go out and buy a brand new one. That's why Gazelle is a great deal. The best stuff they get traded in, they sell at Gazelle.com. And you know it's good because they certify it either like new, which is new basically, or good. Certified good devices might have some gentle wear, but you're going to save even more money. And all the devices are put through a rigorous 30-point inspection, so you know they're fully functional. And, of course, their 30-day risk-free return policy means you never have to guess or worry. To buy or sell, you got to go to Gazelle, Gazelle, Gazelle.com. And we thank Gazelle for supporting the Tech Guy Show. We appreciate it. Thank you, Gazelle. And for taking all that junk that I trade in. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 88. Ask Leo. Back to the phones. Chris is on the line, Lakewood, California. Hi, Chris. Leo Laporte here.
Thank you, Leo.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you very much for this. I need some good advice that I can't get any advice on. I hope you can help me with this. I'm a writer and a proofreader, and I'm thinking about either getting an iPad or a Microsoft Surface. I was actually leaning in the direction of getting the Surface, but I recently went to an Apple store and was told that I can get everything that I can get an iPad that will do everything that the Surface will do, which includes Adobe Acrobat, which I need because I work on PDF files, and Microsoft Word.
Not even close. That's a lie. They're lying to you. Well, they're trying to sell you an iPad. You'd have to be very generous in your definitions of everything you want to do to say that the iPad could do everything a Surface can. It's the difference between iOS and a full version of Windows. So I don't think it takes too much to think about before you realize that Windows can do far more than an iPad can do. Far more.
Oh, okay.
So you have to think about what you need to do. Do you need to use Microsoft Office?
Yes, I do. The Word documents.
All right, Microsoft has made Word available on the iPad, but it's a tablet touch version. It's not the same thing as the full version of Word, which is available for the Surface. Now, the Surface is going to end up costing you more by the time you put all the stuff together. iPads don't come with a keyboard. You can use a Bluetooth keyboard, but it's just a separate thing, whereas Surfaces have a click-on keyboard that make it much more like a laptop.
Oh, okay.
If you're talking about modifying PDFs, that's much easier to do on Windows. There are many better tools than there are on an iPad. I think you'd find yourself, you probably can do a lot of what you want to do on an iPad with a significant degree of frustration.
Oh, okay. I don't want that.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
Now I think are you talking about a Surface Pro 3?
Yeah, which one do you recommend, the Surface?
Yeah, I would. Well, this is your work computer. I would get a Surface Pro 3, and you're going to get it's going to cost you more than an iPad, a lot, because you're getting a real computer now. You're not getting a tablet, because you're going to get the keyboard that snaps in, the type keyboard, and you may want to get a dock, which would allow you then to have a big screen and a regular keyboard when you're at home. I presume the reason you want a Surface is you want portability, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can work as if I was working on my desktop at home, when I'm out and about.
Yeah. I mean, the guy at the Apple Store would, if he wanted to keep you in the fold, should have said, or you can buy a MacBook, their laptop. But an iPad is going to be an exercise of frustration for what you want to do, I think.
Well, I'm so glad I called you, Leo.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there is a new Surface, the Surface 3, this is when you said help me choose, comes out in May. It's also a full version of Windows. It's thinner and lighter. It's more iPad specs in terms of size, but it's still a full version of Windows. So
you know what? I think the Surface Pro, did you say that the new 3 is coming out?
In May.
Oh, I'll wait till May. That's worth it.
Yeah, that's going to be, it's not better than the Pro. It's a less expensive, starts at $499, coincidentally the same price as the iPad. It's a less expensive version of the Surface Pro 3. It's the Surface 3, but it is running full Windows. Microsoft has abandoned their Windows RT platform, thank goodness, because that was really confusing for people. It didn't run with standard Windows apps. You're already using a Windows computer now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. You want something that's going to operate the same way as you're operating now.
Exactly.
But portable. That's a Surface.
Exactly.
That's a Surface. And the Surface screen is great. I think you're going to like it better. I'm glad you called too. Remember that when you go into an Apple store and you ask them, they're going to tell you something that's self-serving. And by the way, I love the iPad. People, it's so. I actually take great pleasure in a call like that because it puts the lie to the people who think, "Oh, Leo, you're such an Apple fanatic," and the other people say, "Oh, Leo, you hate the iPad." I don't love or hate anything. This is technology. These are tools. It's like saying, "I love this hammer." It's just a hammer. Maybe you have a favorite tool manufacturer. Maybe you're a Steel guy or a Black & Decker person, but when it comes to technology, it's just a tool, and you should get the tool that's right for you. And if somebody calls and says, "I'm a carpenter, and I'd like to use this screwdriver to hammer nails," I'm going to tell you, get a hammer. Get a hammer. And I am not a fanboy. And this is, I think, what confuses people is because, unfortunately, technology coverage has started to become like team sports coverage. You have to pick a team and root for it, and my team, right or wrong, do or die. And I don't feel that way. I feel like this is all about finding a tool that's right for what you need to do. And in this case, I think the Surface Pro, I would get the Surface Pro 3. It's a little more expensive, but this is your work. This is your work. No, I don't hate screwdrivers. If it's screwing you need to do, you should get a screwdriver. I'm just saying, if you want to hammer a nail, get a hammer. Kevin in Asheville, North Carolina. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, good to speak with you.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. Two-part question. Is it possible to find any good streaming services online that actually stream in high-fidelity audio?
Oh, yeah. Are you? Come on now. Are you working for Tidal?
No, I'm actually trying to find something other than Tidal because
there's two. There's Tidal and there's Deezer. Deezer hasn't started yet in the U.S., but will soon. Both charge $20. So that's the problem. If you want CD quality streaming, the two services that do it right now cost $20. I'll tell you the truth. Unless you're listening on a very good stereo, I don't think you can tell the difference.
Okay, because I've been using services like Spotify. I pay the monthly fee for
it's $10.
Pandora, which it's $4 a month.
Pandora is cheap.
It's $192K.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I'm actually getting high fidelity audio. I mean,
well, if you can't, you're not getting as high as it could be. You're not getting CD quality. That's the promise of Tidal and Deezer. Tidal's the one that Jay-Z just bought for $56 million. They had a big rollout with all these big stars like Beyonce and Jay-Z and Kanye and Madonna on stage signing some pact, which we don't even know what it meant. But if you put this hype aside, yes, for $20 a month, you will be able to get CD quality streaming. But remember, streaming, you're going to have a lot of you need more bandwidth for CD quality, and I cannot tell the difference. Now, I'm the guy who's saying buy high-res music. If you're listening on a good stereo and you've got great playback system, get high quality. But if you're listening in the car, I listen on Sonos speakers. They're good speakers, but I can't tell the difference between a CD and regular quality. It really depends on what you're listening on, and I don't think it's worth paying that much for high fidelity unless you're listening in a high-fidelity environment.
Well, now, one last thing real quick. I've got a Samsung Note 4 phone. Now, I have been experimenting a little bit with 24-bit audio files. Now, will the Samsung Note 4 handle 24-bit audio?
It will not. It won't play it back. You need a digital to analog converter that can handle it. Let me talk about it a little bit when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, so Tidal for $20 a month is going to stream CD quality, lossless. And you know what? Now we have enough bandwidth. Most of us have enough bandwidth. That's not challenging. If you're watching Netflix in high def, streaming CD quality audio is trivial. It might buffer a little bit more. In your car, probably not a good idea. So that's problem number one, because, of course, your bandwidth use will go up, will probably double. And you may not want to do that on 3 or 4G. So it makes sense to subscribe to Tidal my opinion is you could buy music and own it. I guess if you really want the millions of songs and you want to listen on your stereo, I could not tell the difference. I've had Tidal for a few months now on Sonos, and I could not really tell the difference. You're right, get the 30-day trial and see.
I think it's a week trial.
It's only a week?
Yeah, I got to remember to undo mine.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I don't hear it.
Could you tell the difference? I couldn't tell the difference.
Not hearing it.
And I really kind of resent $20 a month.
Totally.
That seems like it's a little pricey. It's interesting. The record labels are feeling their oats, though, because Apple has been trying to get Beats down to $8 a month, and they couldn't, apparently. The Apple's saying now it's going to be $10. So $10 is like baseline. Spotify, RDO, Beats, all that. Hey, Johnny Jet. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo the phone number. Johnny Jet is our travel guru, joins us each and every week from parts unknown to talk about saving money through technology. I don't know where you are, Johnny, but I was looking at the video on Skype, and it looks gorgeous.
It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. Up in
you're in Banff. You're in Lake Louise.
Lake Louise now. Alberta, Canada. 45 minutes from Banff, hour and a half from Calgary.
And this is the time of year to be there.
From LA.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram.
A lot of snow.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous. Well, welcome, Johnny.
Thank you. Unfortunately, my Wi-Fi is not too strong in my hotel, so I'm calling in on the phone.
You know, everybody else calls in the phone. Why should you be better than anybody else? I ask you.
Well, you know.
Because you are better. That's why. Because you are better. You say, because I am better. I am strong. I am powerful.
Well, you know what? The one thing that's not powerful up in Alberta is the Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Which is really too bad because I've been actually Meerkatting and periscoping. So have you used Periscope yet? I know you use Meerkat.
Yeah, so these are the two flavor of the month live video streaming apps. Meerkat came out first, got a lot of attention. But then Twitter came out with its own version called Periscope. Which one do you like?
You know what? Actually, I like Periscope. Today I was doing a little test. I put Meerkat on first. I had like 9 people in there. Then I turned it off after 30 seconds, turned on Periscope, and within 20 seconds I had 550 people in there.
Wow.
And comments from all around the world saying, hello from Saudi Arabia, Australia, Italy, Montreal, all over the world. It was amazing. It was so much better to interact.
The other thing that's better in some ways about Periscope is it saves your live video stream for a day. Meerkat, once you stop streaming, it's over.
Although after I Meerkat, I then get a tweet from some services.
Catch.
If you like.
Yeah, but that's a hack. Yeah. Catch. I don't think that's just a hack. Somebody's messing around.
Yeah, I've never done it, but it says tweet. This hashtag.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it. But I actually kind of like that they don't record it because a lot of times you're on the fly and you're saying crazy stuff and.
I know it's better that way. It's like Snapchat for travel writers.
Exactly. So I'm going to keep doing Periscope. I'm hopefully be able to do it after I get off here today, but we'll see.
Here's the beauty part: if you just follow @JohnnyJet on Twitter, whether he Meerkats or Periscopes, either way, you'll be able to see it.
But it's interesting, by the way. After I do both and I look at my Twitter feed, the Periscope doesn't show up. The Meerkat does.
Boy, that must be a setting because you'd think Twitter would want to have Periscope work on Twitter.
Well, for my notifications, it says, Meerkat, I guess, would tweet it out and say it, but it's not in my timeline. Speaking as someone who spent $1.5 million on a live streaming video studio, I hate them both.
You bunch of you amateurs, you ruin it for the rest of us.
I don't blame you.
No, you know what? Yesterday I did a Meerkat, 45-minute Meerkat on a Segway. I was riding out in the country. I gave people a tour of Petaluma on a Segway.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I like Meerkat. It's yellow. Well, it's pretty.
Yeah, I agree with you. But anyway, so I got an app. I got another app for you.
Yes, sir.
This one is called Gas Guru.
Gas Guru.
Guru. So a lot of people are going to be driving this summer. Fuel prices are fairly low, much lower than last summer, that's for sure. But this is free for Android and iOS, and it shows you the gas prices all around the country. It's easy to use, and that way, the other day I filled up my gas, and I can't remember what I paid, but a mile down the road, it was 30 cents cheaper.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
So,
all right,
this app will help you do that, especially when you're on the road and you're doing a road trip. You have no idea where the cheap gas is. So, I would definitely download this and check it out.
Gas Guru. It's from yellowpages.com, oddly enough.
I was trying to figure that part out.
Yeah. It's like Yellow Pages for your phone.
Another good app, by the way, if you're looking for gas prices around the country. But this one targets to where you are, and it's much easier to lay it out.
Yeah, it was these both have been around for a while. Gas Buddy and Gas Guru were kind of the Periscope and Meerkat of their day, fighting it out for your gas buying dollar. What else you got?
So I got a choice for you. You want a website or you want an app?
I want a website.
All right, so this one is called airportcod.es, so it must be a Spanish website. So it's for airport codes.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think they're just being clever. COD.es is codes, right? A lot of people do that with the España is the ES, and you're right, it's Spain, but a lot of people do that, take it kind of so they can have clever names. World Airport Codes. I never know what that code is.
And this is a website that will show you has almost 300 airports codes around the world. I counted 276 from Allentown, which is ABE, to Zurich, which is ZRH. And it will show you real quick. You can just click on it, and it will tell you how it got its name and what the code is. So some of them are pretty cool, like Bob is Bora Bora. There's a couple I can't pronounce because we're on the radio.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and one is well, actually one is Suck, which is South Dakota.
South Dakota sucks.
Which I'm.
And so does it. So you learn everything you ever wanted to know about airport codes.
Well, the reason why you want to do this is because a lot of times where you try and find the cheap deals, which is like in Flyer Talk in their thread, everyone's speaking in code, and so you have no idea what they're talking about if you're a newbie. And so this way, this will help you much quicker, get associated with. And this is how you find the cheap deals. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you have to act really fast to find the deals. So, one of those websites is flyertalk.com, and you go into the thread, especially for like mileage run, and it will sometimes you can find deals that are ridiculous. I mean, the mistake fares that go up for $200 round trip to Europe, but you have to act really fast, and a lot of times it's just in code.
You know what I like about this is it has airport facts, and the one fact I always want to know is how far is the airport from the city? And because that's useful, right? For instance, LaGuardia is almost right in Manhattan, but Newark and JFK are considerably more distant. That kind of thing I like to know. So how much the cab ride's going to cost, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I frequent New York often, and they're actually talking about lifting the 1,000-mile flight ban on LaGuardia flights. So all the big West Coast airlines on the West Coast are really gearing up because most travelers would much rather fly into LaGuardia and out of LaGuardia since it's a 15-minute taxi ride instead of 30 minutes to JFK and maybe 40 minutes to Newark.
What are you doing in Lake Louise? What are you doing up there?
You know what? We came up here for Easter. Natalie's family here is on Sunday. Tomorrow we're going to see her aunt and her mother who's visiting. But our real reason is because we were supposed to go dog sledding. We were going to go tubing, skiing, but there's not a lot of snow, although it just snowed this morning.
Skinny dipping instead.
Well, we're going to go hit the hot tub. We're going to the spa. There's some really nice hotels, and it's just, nice. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth.
I have seen pictures from Lake Louise. It's stunning.
It really is. Have you ever been up here, by the way?
I have not. I've always wanted to go to Banff.
You got to come up.
I got to go there.
You got to check out the Post Hotel in Lake Louise.
Okay. I shall. I shall. Johnny Jet, continue traveling. Enjoy your trip. And we'll talk again next week. You could follow him on the Twitter at Johnny Jet, on Instagram at Johnny Jet. But best thing to do, go to his website, johnnyjet.com. That's where you'll get his travel deals, free travel deals newsletter, and all sorts of information. And he joins us each and every week at this time. Thank you, Johnny. Safe travels. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. We're going to get back to the phones and answer more calls. I'll talk a little bit about how to play back high-res music, too, since our last caller wanted to know if he could do it on his smartphone. Right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I love this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. We've been talking a lot about this high-res music thing. And I know, David Pogue at Yahoo wrote a scathing article calling it the Emperor's New Clothes. Nobody can hear the difference. And he's a musician, an operatic composer, Broadway composer. He's certainly a musician you'd think would be able to tell the difference if there was a difference. So I understand, for a lot of people, this is all snake oil. The issue comes down to what format your music is stored in. It's very simple. What format your music is stored in. And, until very recently, like 20 years ago, it was, either on a vinyl record, which is analog. The record's grooves vibrate a needle. The needle's vibration get turned into electrical signals, which are amplified and play through speakers. And there's a direct connection between the vibrations of the needle and the sound pressure of the voice of the singer or the musician's instrument, and the sound pressure then generated in reverse by the speaker. That's the principle, going back to Edison, of recorded music, analog recorded music. We duplicate the sound pressure changes, the waves, that's all sound is. Our ears detect that and turn it into sound in our brain. We duplicate those changes in pressure by recording them through a microphone. and then reproducing them through the speakers. Well, of course, once computers became popular, people were very interested in how do we do this digitally so that we don't have to have a vinyl pressing. And by the way, recording on a cassette or a reel-to-reel is also analog. It's just a different storage format. You still take the sound pressure waves, convert them into electrical signals, which are then stored and then played back and turned back into movement of the speaker cone, sound pressure waves. But they're both analog in the sense that there's a direct correspondence between the sound made by the instrument and the sound reproduced by the speaker. It's almost as if the instrument is by remote control pushing the speaker back and forth. Digital's a little different because in order to get this into bits on a hard drive, which is what digital has to be, we have to convert these analog forms, which are smooth curves. They can be jaggy, but you expand them enough, you'll see smooth curves. You have to turn those smooth analog curves into digital samples. You have to take little slices of the curve and record at any given slice the position of the dot on the curve. And you do that enough times, you've got a way of saving what that curve looks like as ones and zeros. And that's really what digital is. We talk about sample rate, which is how many times per second we slice that curve. The sample rate typically of a recording, if you're recording digitally in a studio, remember older stuff wasn't recorded digitally, it was recorded analog on tape. But since, maybe the 80s, late 80s, most stuff has been recorded digitally. And that means that the sound wave would go into a microphone, which would go into a processor, which would then slice it up. And in the studio, it might slice it up as many as 192,000 times a second. As many as 192,000 times a second. Typically, though, it would be less than that. And then it has to say, where is that dot? Okay, I've got a slice of the curve. Where is the dot on the curve? And that's called the resolution. It's kind of analogous to the number of bits we use to represent colors. The more bits you have, the more colors you can have. The more bits you have, the finer the resolution of the music. Typically, when they're recording, they record with a resolution of 24 bits. 24 bits, 4 bytes. No, that's 3 bytes, isn't it? And that gives you 4 million different possibilities. 4 million different positions for that dot. So you go into the studio, you're a rock and roll band, they turn on the digital PCM recorder, and it takes the sound that's coming into the microphones and records them every 192,000 times a second. They measure it on a scale of 0 to 4 million. Then those ones and zeros, because that's all it is now, is numbers, are stored onto a disk, a drive. They can be sent at light speed over the internet. They can be copied perfectly, and this is the advantage of digital. Infinite number of times. Can't do that with a record. That's hard to do. And so that's really fueled the revolution. The problem is these files are fairly big. They balloon out of proportion because you're saving so many bits. So early on, we did a couple of things. First of all, in order to fit them on a CD, because a CD is like a hard drive. A CD has bumps and grooves. The bumps are ones, the grooves are zeros. And the CD is just really like a hard drive. It contains a lot of data. And the computer, which is either your CD player or your actual computer, has a laser that reads the pits and the grooves, the pits and the bumps, and turns them into ones and zeros. Then it has the data that was the recording, and that it can be converted with a digital to analog converter, or DAC, into music that your speakers resonate to and you hear. In order to fit it on a CD, we couldn't do 192 by 24. We couldn't. So there was a lot of back and forth, and finally the folks who determined the CD, chiefly Philips with a little help from Sony, said what we're going to do is we're going to downsample it. We're going to only, on the CD, put 44,100 samples per second, and those samples will not be 24 bits, but 16 bits. That's a lot less. 65,000 possibilities instead of 4 million. Am I getting that right? Maybe it's 4 billion. It's a big difference. I can't remember. I have to do my math. In any event, it's a lot less. But it is still, according to mathematical theory, like the Nyquist theorem, adequate to fully represent the sound. In other words, you shouldn't be able to mathematically tell the difference. And that's where this argument over high-res music comes in. So CD quality is 44,100 samples per second at 16 bits. Now, in order to get this, to make it even easier to store, because hard drive space was expensive in the 90s, and to transmit over the internet, because bandwidth was constrained in the 90s, we compressed it, we squeezed it, using something called MP3 to 1/10 the size. Now we're talking. Now you can get a whole song with just a few hundred megabytes of music, less than that sometimes, tens of megabytes. And so that is highly compressed, and they used a lot of psychoacoustics to figure out how we could do this, because they're taking bits of the music out. They actually are losing quality when we do this. Downsampling always means losing quality. Compression like this, lossy compression, means losing quality. But they did it psychoacoustically by understanding how the human ear works. Turns out when one tone, one frequency is playing, the human ear blocks out other frequencies. Just can't hear them. So the folks who invented MP3, the Fraunhofer Corporation in Germany at the time, said, all right, well, we don't need to record those extra frequencies because you can't hear them because of the main frequency. So they took them out. They're gone. They're just gone. And the truth is, it works very well. If you listen to an MP3 next to an uncompressed CD, they're very similar. If you learn what to look for, you can probably tell the difference. So there's nobody really questions that CD quality is better than MP3 quality. But what if you could get even better quality? And that's where there's some big question mark. Furthermore, you need a digital to analog converter that can handle 192 kilobits per second of 24 bits each. And that's the problem, is that most phones, including your iPhone and all Samsung phones, cannot handle the higher bit rates. They can handle CD quality, and that's it. So, and I was surprised. I thought this would be the year that people would put out phones that could handle high-res music, and no. So you have to get a Pono player or some other player, FiO, F-I-I-O makes them too, that has a higher quality DAC, or use, there are companies that make these digital to analog converters that are better quality. You could buy them for your computer even, or output it from your phone. But you have to output digitally to these DACs, which will then take the bits and turn them into waves, to analog waves. Boy, that was a long way around to say you couldn't currently play high quality in your with your smartphone unless you add additional processing, a digital to analog converter. But there is some question about whether you'd hear the difference. And in most environments, like your car, you wouldn't. Only if you're in a very good setup, probably with excellent headphones, or better yet, very, very good speakers, in a high-quality listening environment, and everything's tuned just right, you might be able to hear the difference then. Might. That's the real expense. It's not $18 for the CD. It's thousands of dollars for better speakers. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. No, apps can't do it because it's a hardware process. I have to say, I get so. Jury's still out on the idea of whether it. The real difference is probably going from 16 to 24-bit. So 16-bit. Now, what is 16-bit? I gotta remember. 8-bit is 256 possibilities. 16-bit, I think, is 65,000 roughly possibilities. 24-bit, is it 2 billion? Or 4 million? Or 2 billion? Yeah, 65,536. I can remember that exactly. 256, 65,536. What's 24-bit? 16 million, all right. 32 bits is 4 billion. I always go. All right. So instead of 65,000 possibilities with 16-bit sound, with 24-bit sound, you have 16 million possibilities. A big difference. That's the bigger difference. In fact, we had Joe Walsh of the Eagles on Ham Nation. And it was one of the questions I asked him, Joe, when you're recording at home, what do you record at? And he said, typically, we still do 44.1, but we do 24-bit. He said, any more than that, file size gets way too big. But that's his home studio, but his home studio is probably as good as any studio in the world, right? Because he's a geek. So he records at 44.24. You can get, of course, 96, 24, and 192, 24. I am sure there is zero difference between 96 and 192. There's probably zero difference between, I think probably 24-bit resolution is the key, not the sample rate. But I don't know. Why would it make sense, Crucial Wax? This is an interesting question. Crucial Wax says 24-bit makes sense for recording, but not for playback. But why bother recording more than you need? I've read that Ziff article. I've read all of the. Remember that guy, the guy who wrote the article everybody quotes, wrote the Ogg Vorbis format, which is a lossy compression format. He's of the opinion you can't tell the difference between lossy and lossless compression in audio. You can. So he's not in my opinion, I understand he's got math, but he's an engineer. He's not. The noise floor. Okay, I get it. That makes sense. So yeah, nobody records at 32 bits that I know of. That's crazy talk. What I really want is I want the Studio Master. Why would you want a downsampled version if there's a master for a few, and it literally is a few bucks more. In some cases it's more than that, but if for $18 you can get the Studio Master versus $15 for a CD, which would you buy? And I admit at my age I probably can't tell the difference anyway. But you see why this is a massive debate. And I don't want physical. You haven't moved enough, Compo Simonite. I don't want any physical media. If I can get better than CD quality sound and it's in a USB key, if I could put an album on or a hard drive or the cloud, why wouldn't you? So the key on the setup is having a DAC that can do the high bit rate. That's the key. And those aren't hard to come by. FiO makes them. And then there's a big debate over which DACs are better. There's audiophile DACs, and you can spend a lot of money on a DAC. If you have a computer, your computer does not play back 24-bit in most cases. Not a Mac anyway. And I doubt, maybe there are some sound cards that will play back higher quality for PCs. But really what you do is you take a USB DAC, because USB is just the bits. So USB into the DAC, FiO makes them, a lot of companies make them. And the DAC does the digital to analog conversion and has an analog jack for your headphones or your stereo or whatever. Well, it doesn't matter if the VLC player can play 24-bit if you don't have a DAC, unless it doesn't need a DAC. That's an interesting question, actually. Yeah, my Onkyo has a good DAC. It's a Burr Brown DAC, so that's what I use. And I have all my high-res music on 100. Actually, I think I had a 256 gig USB drive, and that's all my music's on there. Now that bandwidth is plentiful and hard drive storage is cheap, I see no reason to go with a CD format. Yeah, I agree. I will downsample my FLAC recordings for use on my iPhone. You have to. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, Hour 3 of the Tech Guy program. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. If you have a question, a comment, or suggestion, 888-827-5536. Don't forget the website. That's really your reference, your compendium. TechGuyLabs.com. TechGuyLabs.com. Terry in San Clemente, Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Leo. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Awesome. Doing really good. Better than I deserve.
Better than you deserve. Have you been a bad girl? Oh, that laugh tells me everything. Go ahead, Terry. That was a very naughty laugh. What can I do for you?
Well, I want to thank you you helped me purchase my Mac about 3 years ago now. Probably
Excellent.
Need to do it again soon.
soon,
I
soon.
think I am one of those recalls. I need to look it up and see. But I've had some funky screen stuff, so thanks for that information.
Is it a MacBook Pro, a laptop?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know what you do? You go into the Apple menu about this Mac, and the fourth or the last tab on the right you actually can click it and say check, and it's so nice. They made it so easy. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I heard that. I was listening at work this week, this last weekend, and so thank you for that too. You're awesome.
Good.
So I have a real simple question, but it's something I'm doing spring cleaning, and I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff out of the house, and I do back up both on external and on the cloud, but I have 2 hard drives that have died, so I need to get rid of them. And every time I think to take them to the e-cycling, I have a feeling like someone could get to them if they wanted to, or get the hard drive. I don't know. I guess I'm paranoid.
So when they die, you can't wipe them. And so normally what we would say is if you're getting rid of a hard drive, you do a secure erase, which really it erases the data, then writes stuff on it, and then erases it again a few times.
Yeah.
That's kind of overkill. If the hard drive's not working, it is possible somebody could get it working, and then all your stuff would be on there, though. So I understand your concern. In order to prevent that from happening, you'd have to destroy the drive, make it so that they can't use it again.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So open it up and stomp on it.
Yeah. Be careful. Actually, we did that once on the Screensavers, my old TV show. My co-host Patrick Norton was demonstrating this exact thing. You can unscrew the drive lid, open it up. As soon as you've done that, pretty much the drive is useless. But you then can take out the platters, and if you really want to go crazy, destroy them. But what he didn't know or had forgotten was that sometimes platters are made of glass. And he hit one with a hammer, and it shattered into a million pieces, fortunately avoiding our eyes. So be careful. But yeah, open it up. You can unscrew it with a standard screwdriver usually, or you might need an Allen wrench. And once you've opened it up, and it shouldn't be too hard to do that, you'll see inside, and it's actually kind of educational. You'll see the platters. You'll see the read-write head, which is just a little tiny, tiny thing that goes up and down. If you dismantle that further, I think you're fine. Drill a hole in the platters or bend them in half. Somebody would then have to be extraordinarily dedicated. Like, I want to know what Terry's been up to, dedicated, to put that back together again. And it would almost certainly require, high-level, government-level technologies.
Okay, great.
So at that point, you could stop worrying about it. Because if they want to know that about you, all they have to do is check with the NSA archives. They can find anything they want.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but and people say save the magnets. There's some very strong rare earth magnets in there people like to play with. Be careful, keep them away from kids that might swallow them. They're dangerous. But there's some interesting things. This is a useful, since you're obviously kind of, I apologize, I don't mean to be offensive, a geek.
Yes, I am. Oh, no. I'm proud to be a geek.
Yay, right on. You are. You should be. So if you're interested in this stuff, it's great. And if you have other geeks around, or a kid especially, this is a great learning process. Take it apart, show them what's inside, show her what's inside. It's fascinating. I actually save dismantled drives so I can use them for demos.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have even. I thought it was extreme, but now that you're saying it, I'm game. I'm going to get my screw.
Yeah, because the drive died, right? So you can't put it in a computer and wipe it. So
right.
The other thing you could do is just pass them over a big magnet. Somebody's saying, I'm not sure I'd recommend this. Clorox destroys the magnetic layer. I don't think you need to go too crazy. Just bend them.
Okay.
Nobody's going to unbend them and put them together again. That would be crazy talk. Hey, thanks for the call, Terry. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you're paying attention to this. Guy did a study, at MIT some years back. He bought a bunch of old hard drives on eBay. And what he was curious is, do these have any data on them? And he didn't use, in fact, his name's Simpson Garfinkel. He said, you don't really need to do this thorough wipe. A single erase is sufficient. But they hadn't even done that. And many of the drives he bought were old drives from ATM machines that the banks had just said, sell these on eBay, that contained all the transactions, the ATM card numbers. None of this stuff had ever been erased. Never had been erased. So, yeah, it probably behoove you to be a little careful. And, yeah, be careful opening it up. I'll put a link in the show notes to the YouTube of the day Patrick Norton decided to take a hammer to a hard drive platter and surprising us both with the fact that it looked like metal. Wasn't metal. That was glass. You know, if you do have a hard drive, very important to back it up, because hard drives die. She can't get back to that hard drive. They die. And once they're dead, they're gone. Whoa! Sorry, I just saw the video of him nearly blinding me. Robin, Los Alamitos, California. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Leo. I was listening to you talk to a gentleman about a Surface Pro 3, and I've been using one for about a year, and I love it. It came down to the choice was the MacBook Air or this, and I'm really glad I went with this. The only thing a lot of people don't, well, you would probably know it, and true tech pros would know it. When you turn it on and it comes up on tiles, it's kind of in tablet mode.
Yeah.
If I use it for work and school, I need to go into desktop mode for anything other than just email and social media.
Desktop is what Windows used to be, and then they added this tablet mode. And that's why people hated Windows 8. But you figured this out by now. Windows 8.1, you can say, always come up in the desktop.
And it's so handy because it fits in everything. It goes everywhere. And it does everything I could possibly want it to do. I've been very satisfied with it. I use my office programs with it. I do school things. I do home health visits with it. It's ideal.
Well, you go. An unsolicited recommendation. And I'm with you. I talk to people who own Surface Pro 3s all the time, and they love them. It is one of those things. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for the testimonial, Robin. I appreciate it. She should get one. I agree with you. And then coming in a couple of months, the new Surface, not Pro, the Surface 3, which is going to be very good too. I think very light, very inexpensive. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Friday at midnight Pacific time, you can order the Apple Watch. You're going to order an Apple Watch, Heather Hellman?
No.
No. But how am I supposed to send you my heartbeat?
Oh, well, I'll get one right away then.
They're smart. It's kind of dorky, but if you have a friend with an Apple Watch, they've put these videos up on Apple.com showing how the Apple Watch is going to work, a little bit more detail. And one of them is, really, this is the thing that's unique to the Apple Watch, is they have this taptic thing, which means it's a word they made up, that the watch will vibrate slightly, inaudibly. You know when your phone vibrates, everybody can hear it. It's like it's not silent. It's really loud. But the watch, only you. It's very like, did you hear that? No. Because it was just doing my wrist. It was a little tippity. It's like there's a little gnome inside the watch. Just tip, tip, tip. So you can do that. Well, there's a few things you can do. Here, I'll play the video here, and you can listen.
When you tap the icon, you can draw a sketch.
So this is if your friend, but your friend has to have an Apple Watch, or you can't do this. So
your sketch will automatically be sent to your friend's watch, where it will animate exactly as you drew it.
Oh, that's neat. So she drew a star, and then I would get a star. Well, what? Okay, maybe. Oh, all right. You're skeptical. Well, how about this?
You can also use your finger to send taps.
You can use your finger to send taps.
Oh, like I'm tapping you on the shoulder?
Well, I could go tap, 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 tap on my watch, and you'd get that on your wrist, but no one would know. So you have to make up codes like, lovebird codes. Like if I tap 3 times, it means I love you.
All right, they need to make the eye panties. Whoa.
No, stop it.
Because your friend is wearing an Apple Watch, they'll feel the same tap pattern on their wrist.
So it's not just how many taps, it's where the taps are. So you could tap upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner. The possibilities are endless.
What are we, 10 years old?
Wait a minute, there's more.
Finally, you can rest 2 fingers on the screen to send your heartbeat.
You can rest 2 fingers on the screen. I'm not mocking this. I actually am going to get this, and I'm making my wife get it so that I can do this. You rest 2 fingers on the screen,
which your friend will also feel.
And it sends your heartbeat to your loved one. Don't send this to your coworker, your boss. Boss, you're killing me. My heart's racing.
Right? I think I'm dying.
And then, but listen to this, and I have to say, I'm a little underwhelmed by this.
Now just wait and see if you receive something back.
What the heck? That's such a bad. You taught me the proper way. We need a name for this thing. This this cute the cute like when you saw a cute little puppy or grumpy cat with a funny saying. She does that so poorly. She's doing it's like a goat.
Just wait and see if you receive something back.
That's not right.
That's not I saw a cute kitten.
Need new voiceover artist for this one. It's right? You do it for me because only women could do this right. Yeah, see, perfect. She doesn't do it right. I'm just saying. But if you go to apple.com, they have 4 videos now, more to come. They're going to string us out all week, right? They're going to have every day they'll announce a couple more videos. But it's probably, if you're thinking of getting a watch, you probably should watch the videos. Again, I will reiterate what I said at the beginning of the show. If you're trying to decide, should I get the watch, you should not get the watch. You should only get the watch if you're saying to yourself right now, I'm going to get the watch. I don't care what you say. I don't care what anybody says. If you don't, it's like being a writer. If you don't have to get the watch, if you don't have to be a writer, you shouldn't. This is one of those things where it's going to get better. The next one will be better. This is early days. There's a lot of question marks about this. So I would say, unless you know, but I will have it by in 2 weeks. You order April 10th and it comes out April 24th, and I will have it by then, and I'll let you know if it really is or David in Huntington, West Virginia. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, David.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for your show. I really enjoy it.
Thanks. What can I do for you?
Hey, I work from home. I'm blessed to be able to do that. I log in through Citrix and a VPN to my office in Atlanta. But I have a couple of machines that I log into through Citrix that have 2 screens. I have 2 screens at home, but I am unable to view both those screens at the office simultaneously on both screens at my house. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Normally when you VPN in, the whole idea of this, and Citrix is a very well-known provider of these, but there are many different companies that do this. Your business wants you to be able to work at home securely as if you're at work. That means you need to get on the corporate network. But obviously they don't want the corporate network just be anybody could get into it, so they have a pretty hardened system that you have to use if you're going to use the corporate network. It's called a virtual private network, or VPN. And all the stuff that's going on between you and the work network is, encrypted and stored in a tunnel that can't be seen by anybody else. And also, you have to go through some strict protocols to get into it. But what you want to do is really interesting. I don't know if any VPN allows you to use multiple screens. That's an interesting idea. So your application at work can. You've got multiple screens at home. But it would be up to the Citrix client to somehow handle that. I've never experienced it. I've only ever used, when I use a VPN, 1 screen at a time. Does anybody know how to do that with the Citrix VPN client in the chat room. Maybe I'm hoping somebody's going to pop up there. Can you do it? It's an interesting question. What's the application?
Well, it's litigation support, so I mean it's pretty detailed. It's not very common. I wouldn't imagine, the applications that I'm using.
Well, but yeah, there are a lot of people now use multiple screens. If you're still using a desktop computer, one of the big reasons people still use desktop computers is because they want to have lots of screen real estate.
Right.
Somebody's saying TeamViewer can do that. Remote desktop with Windows 8 and 10 can do that. So, but what you're using is the Citrix. You're using a VPN, but you're also using the Citrix remote desktop client. So it's whether the Citrix remote desktop client can do it. TeamViewer, I should say, and RDP, the remote desktop that Windows uses, are different. They're not Citrix. Actually, RDP is licensed from Citrix, but they're not Citrix. But since RDP can do it, I wouldn't be surprised if Citrix can. You just need to check and see if the Citrix VPN can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not using RDP over the Citrix VPN. You're using Citrix screen sharing.
Correct.
Yeah. I would bet it can. I mean, that's the king of them all. That's the best one in the business.
Okay.
So the chat room is working on it for us, and if they can find an answer, we'll put it in our show notes at techguylabs.com. Apparently the best is Scarlett Johansson and Her. Let me see if I can find that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah. She's so cute in Her. Aw. Thanks to our musical director, Nathan Staten, spinning the discs. Do we still have discs? 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Marcia, Santa Monica. Hi, Marcia. Leo Laporte.
Hi, Leo. I'm calling about televisions. I bought a Toshiba about 7-8 years ago. As far as I know, it's a regular television, but I want to turn it into, I guess they call that a smart television. And can I just buy whatever the Gadget is? Or do
You can. In fact, I recommend you buy the Gadget even if you had a smart television. Okay. So what a smart television basically is an internet-connected television, a television that can get stuff from the internet as opposed to just from your cable or your antenna. And the stuff you might want is Netflix, number one. All smart TVs support Netflix. Maybe Amazon streaming, Hulu Plus. They're Vudu. There's a lot of streaming services out there. The best way to smarten a dumb TV is Roku, R-O-K-U. You get it from Roku Labs. There are a lot of these devices. Apple makes one, the Apple TV. Amazon makes the Fire TV. Google makes Google TV. I guess they call it Android TV. So there are a lot of these. They all do the same thing. They give you internet access, but the applications sometimes vary. So, for instance, Apple doesn't have an app store. Apple only has a limited number of channels, but they're the only one that does iTunes. So if you buy or rent music, TV, and movies on iTunes, you have to have an Apple TV to play them back.
Okay.
But most people, if they're not tied to Apple TV, would do better getting Roku, because everything else Roku does, including HBO Go. If you're an HBO subscriber on your cable, you can use HBO Go. Showtime has an app. There are lots of apps. There are literally thousands of Roku channels. I have one that's a Pilates channel. I can watch Pilates videos and exercise with and stuff like that.
And I can't buy this Roku at Best Buy?
Yeah, Best Buy will have it.
Okay.
You can also buy it online, Roku Labs. Now, there is one little thing. Does your TV have an HDMI connector on the back?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So the older HD TV, is an HD TV a thin panel TV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just look on the back for an HDMI connector, because that will determine which Roku you get. The current Roku, which I would normally recommend, the Roku 3, requires an HDMI connector. Older Rokus have other connection types for older TVs.
Okay, and is this like a gadget? Is it a box?
Yeah, it's about the size of it's like a square hockey puck. And now, you have internet access in your house?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have Wi-Fi?
Not yet.
Do you is the TV near? It probably is the internet access
There is one.
Yeah. So then Roku can handle Wi-Fi or Ethernet direct connection. Ethernet's better if you've got it right there. I would always use Ethernet.
Okay.
Because it's faster and more reliable than wireless. It's just less convenient because your TV has to be next to the internet.
Great.
Yeah, Roku's the best, no question, not even close.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think I often get arguments from the chat room. Leo, you're so wrong. The Fire Stick is so much better or whatever. But in this one case, I think almost everybody agrees the Roku's the one. It's very, very flexible and easy, which is nice. And it's cheap, $99. Apple TV has not been selling well, I think, and that's one of the reasons they dropped the price from $99 to $69. I think they're trying to compete with Roku. And again, the only reason to get the Apple device is if you want iTunes content, because it's the only one that can play back iTunes content. But I really like the Roku 3. And by the way, one neat thing about the Roku 3, it has its own remote. Of course it does. Everything does. That's why you have 8 remotes on your sofa arm. It has its own remote, but that remote has a headphone jack. And I love that. If you want to listen to TV and not, wake everybody else in the house, you could just plug in little headphones to your remote and listen, and it's fantastic. I have a Roku 3 in the guest room. So, because when my mom is a little hard of hearing when she watches TV, she turns it up really loud. I said, Mom, watch this. Put on the headphones. Turn it up as loud as you want. She loves it. She loves it. 8888 Ask Leo. Joe in Canton, Ohio, home of the Football Hall of Fame. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Leo.
I bet everybody says that, don't they? That's all we know about Canton, Ohio.
And that's about all there is. But,
okay. I was going to say, give me another fact, and I'll use that instead.
Just real quick, I was in the Bay Area for about 15 years. Is Petaluma still the chicken capital of California?
It is. We have, in fact, coming up in 2 weeks, the famous Butter and Eggs Day Parade, in which the entire population of Petaluma parades down Main Street. It's a fun parade because everybody's in it. You go down, but the trick is after you go by Main Street, you sit down so you can watch the other people. So that way everybody gets to be in it and everybody gets to see it. Come every third weekend in April. Wonderful Butter and Eggs Day Parade.
Won't miss it.
Actually, we have never been in it. My company, TWiT, is we've been in Petaluma for a long time now. I think we should be in the Butter and Eggs Day Parade. I was thinking we could all ride Segways in the Butter and Eggs Day Parade. Just a little army of 20 Segways going down the road. Tossing out Apple Watches as we go. What can I do for you?
I had probably a very basic question. I've had internet cable connection for probably over 15 years now. For the long time, it was just a single computer hookup, and I'd used a variety of protection devices in the form of firewalls, zone alarms, things like that. Since I went to a Wi-Fi router, I still have the Ethernet connections and also using the Wi-Fi connections as well. By virtue of the fact that I have a router now, does that lessen the need for having each individual PC firewalled?
Yep, turn it off.
A good idea.
Get rid of those firewalls. So the idea of a firewall, I'll tell you why you might turn on the Windows firewall, which comes with Windows. That's all you really need. The idea of a firewall is that it is a wall, like a firewall. Like in the old days, they build a building and after the very famous shirtwaist company fire in New York, where everybody died because the building just went all to pieces, they started putting in fire impervious walls in these buildings. Well, a firewall is similar. It is a internet bad guy impervious wall between you and the outside world. If you have a router, in fact, even if you only have one computer, it's worth getting a router. They're cheap. The idea of the router is to spread internet access through it, to multiple systems in your house. But even if you only had one computer, because what happens is all the traffic coming from the outside world hits that router. The router's a dumb computer. If it isn't expecting the traffic, it drops it. It ignores it. It says, I don't know what you want. Get out of here. And it usually does so silently, and that's exactly what you want. So it only allows conversations that have been started from within the network to proceed. Now, the reason you want to have a software firewall on your computers is in case somebody brings a computer into your network inside the firewall and starts using, and it's infected, it could then infect your other computers. If it's just you, you don't have to worry about it. If you're a business, this happened at CNN, CNN had firewalls, all sorts of protection to the outside world. But some reporter brought her laptop or his laptop in, connected it to the corporate network. It had a virus spread throughout the network. So that's why you want the Windows firewall, which is more than adequate, turned on. All Windows machines, all Macintoshes have built-in firewalls. They're on by default in Windows. They're not on by default in the Macintosh. I recommend turning them on. It doesn't hurt anything. You don't need a third-party firewall. Most of the time, they cause more problems than they solve.
Oh, okay. I knew that. From the time I got my first router, the word was, these are very secure.
They're firewalls, whether they say so in the box or not. Yeah.
It's been a number of years ago. I just didn't know if there had been any recent advances in people being able to hack through routers.
Well, now you've started a conversation, because these are cheap consumer devices, and the companies don't keep the firmware up, and there have been numerous attacks using bad firmware in routers. So absolutely you want to keep the firmware up to date. And if you can use a router that supports an open source firmware like Tomato or DDWRT, I would recommend it, because they keep those up to date faster than the companies do. We can talk about that a little bit when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Ba-ba-ba-bum. La 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 la. Well, we're almost done with this fabulous program, and I can go back in the Oh my God! I can go back in the coffin. Hello, Dickie D.
Hey, sir. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. I tried to match what you were wearing, but I don't have anything ridiculous in my wardrobe.
What do you mean? This is classy, man. It's classy.
Okay. I don't know. It looks a little Las Vegas to me.
What are you wearing? You think you're a lumberjack? You haven't left New York City in 23 years.
I know. Oh, I live by the park.
Oh,
go down there and chop the twigs.
That's the hipster. Yeah, chop the twig.
For the parade, you guys should ride Eggways.
Oh, we could just tape over the S.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had some fun last couple of days. I
saw you.
Did you see us on the Segways? I took the team out Segwaying, and I loved it so much. I want to buy one now.
Are they still $5,000 or are they higher?
Yeah. Well, depends how you trick them out. 5 to 10.
Are there a lot of options for a Segway?
Apparently there are. You can get the Mall Cop edition. Or the Airport Cop
Are they all
edition.
Bluetooth enabled?
The Airport Cop edition has a little blue light on it that flashes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, we're going to go over to Segway of Oakland and find out.
Oh my gosh.
We have to get two. It's like the Apple Watch. You can't just get one.
Oh, okay.
You have to have two.
Oh, that is right.
It was
yeah,
really
right.
fun.
Lisa.
And after you do it for a couple of hours, you no longer really think about it. You just think, go left, go right, go forward, go back, and it just does it. It's like amazing.
Nice.
It's so much fun.
Now, wait a minute.
What?
You said there was a couple that always went segwaying around Petaluma that you thought looked ridiculous. Am I right? Are you embracing your ridiculousness?
I figure if I'm wearing the shirt, I might as well go all the way. Yeah, no, I know that couple.
They were ridiculous until Friday.
You do look like a dork. It's kind of like meerkatting. Everybody else thinks you're a dork, but you think it's the greatest thing ever as you roll down the street.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
So the question is, am I confident enough in my manhood? I already carry a purse.
Well, let's just
So
get
might
you
as well
some
go all
bunny
the way.
ears and make it complete.
So I figure I've already lost all dignity.
Yeah.
So why not roll around on independently motivated electric wheels run by a powerful computer? They're cool.
Yeah.
What happens is you get on them, and after you ride it for a while, you go, this is amazing. This is amazing. And you can maneuver on a dime.
Nice. You know, how long can you run on a charge? Do you know?
Yes, I do know. So the one I had, which is the off-road one, the X2, you can go 12 miles. But normally you go 20 to 24. It depends on how much hills. But here in Petaluma, flat, I could ride all around town and, just charge it at night.
Wow.
That's kind of like my Apple Watch as well. It's good for a day. So Lisa and I were thinking we'd just commute to work on our Segways. How long before somebody throws a stone at the back of my head? Or a brick? I also remember I used to have the trike. I used to ride my trike.
Yeah, I remember the trike. Yeah.
God gave you feet. I'm just offering up a
I should
suggestion.
walk. Yeah, that'd be exercise.
Is there any licensing for Segway?
Nothing.
Okay.
San Francisco, there are some restrictions. It goes state by state and locality by locality, but in most places it's treated as a urban mobility device.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that means. Woo! Some reason I'm just seeing this guy on a disco boat with a disco ball spinning around the floor, lighting up.
Yeah.
Did you dance to this song on your disco boat?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel like it must have been such a party.
It was. It really was.
Oh, man.
Every year there was the effect of the year. One year was the dancing waters, and then one year was the infinity floor, and then the fog machine, then the bubble machine.
I was so sad when you sold that. This guy, Dick DeBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer. We call him the Gizwiz because he always comes by every week bringing us fun gadgets. But he's also a boat guy, writes for boating magazines and so forth. And used to have several boats. One of them was, I've been on it, was a disco boat.
Yeah, a 50-foot boat. I love discos, didn't like smoke, cigarette smoke or smoke from a joint. And I thought, I know, I'll just convert my boat to a disco. And that's what I did.
It had a lit up floor. And you sold it like last year or the year before?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, but I had a friend who's a genius, and he routed the floor out and put LED lights that blinked on and off with the music, and the fountains went up and down with the music. It was amazing.
Wow. So the new owner, did he convert it or did he leave it?
Oh, the new owner, when he came up to pick it up, he said, my wife said all the disco stuff has got to go.
Oh, no.
And then I spoke to him about 2 weeks later, and she said, my wife said, don't take anything out just yet. So I don't know. I don't know how it ended up.
It would be so sad.
Yeah.
Did it all work towards the end, or did it kind of wear out?
It still worked. It worked to the end.
Yeah. All right, let's. I'm sorry, I got distracted by "We've Got the Funk."
Yeah, no problem. So there's a show once a year in New York City, the Luxury Technology Show.
Oh, that's my show.
Yeah. And what's great about it, Leo, is it's not iPad cases and backpacks. It's last year I was there. That's where I found the airplane that had the parachute for the entire airplane.
Yeah. So the plane never crashes because if you have trouble, you just pull the parachute.
Yeah. So this year I saw an interesting exhibit from a TV company called Sierra. And you might be interested in this. They make 2 kinds of TVs that might interest you. One is they make hidden TVs that go behind like bathroom mirrors. So it's a bathroom mirror, but when you want to hear the news, you press the remote, and now a TV shows through the mirror.
I have used that TV.
Oh, you know what? I've used it only in an upscale hotel.
In an upscale hotel, exactly. I think it was in Vegas, and they had a remote control, and I couldn't see where the TV is, so I turn it on, and it starts to come through the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. So they make those, but maybe of more interest is they make a line of Storm TVs made to be put outdoors and stay outdoors.
Even in a storm.
They can be frozen. They can be under a waterfall. They're very pricey. They range from $3,900 to $8,400.
Oh.
They range from 42 to 65 inches. But the person there said 2 things about them is outdoor TVs are normally big and clunky, and their new line is 2.7 inches thin, and it's bug-proof, waterproof, everything-proof. So
is it made of rubber?
No, the gasket, it's triple gasketed.
Yeah, but I mean the screen, they must have a screen cover.
They have, because
I think LCD screens are somewhat delicate.
Well, they also, if you need to have it in sunlight, they make a whole other line called ultra bright. They call it, I believe, the world's brightest TVs. so that even in the one line is for under awnings, under cabanas, and the secondary line, the ultra bright line, is for if you have a TV that has to be outdoors and in the sun.
Now, really, if you're that wealthy, what you should get is the TV that emerges from the ground and just kind of comes up out of nowhere. Have you seen that?
No.
Where did I see
I was
that?
going to say just hire a guy with an umbrella. In a butler's uniform.
Or, here's a crazy idea. Why not just enjoy the great outdoors and forget Vanna and the Wheel of Fortune for just one night?
Yeah, that would be. You know, it would be a great cartoon.
What?
It's these people watching this gorgeous sunset on this TV, and they say, "Oh, enough TV," and they shut it off, and the gorgeous
There's the
sunset
gorgeous
is
sunset.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
Dick is at gizwiz.biz. That's his website. Place to play the What the Heck Is It game. Chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine. Every other month, he puts up a picture, close-up picture of some sort of weirdo gadget. I don't know what this one is. And if you can identify it, or better yet, come up with a crazy answer, you have a shot at winning one of a couple of dozen Mads.
Yes.
Dick, thank you so much.
Okay, see you next week, pal.
All right. Hey, GizFizz coming up. Don't forget. Are you doing it?
Oh,
all right.
Yeah, we are.
Right
sure.
after the radio show, Dick sticks around and does fun stuff, interviews a chat room celebrity, plays the match game and all of that. And today, you're not delayed. The GizFizz right after this
Thank you.
radio
Thank you.
program at TWiT.tv. Let's see. We got about 3 minutes left. I think we can get Alan on the line from San Juan Capistrano. Hi, Alan.
Hello, Leo. And I want you to know carbonite has saved me a couple times.
That's awesome. Unsolicited testimonial.
I have a question here.
Yes.
I have a desktop with a couple 27-inch screens.
Isn't that nice to I have multiple screens? I just love that.
It's nice to move things around and be able to look and see all this stuff.
Studies show the more screen real estate, the more productive you are.
But I have a question. Yeah. I have both an iPad and a Microsoft tablet, Asus. And I was just wondering, it dawned on me, is there anything at all that when I move towards my desktop, I could have it wirelessly connect to the tablet?
Connect in what way?
And that as I come closer with the tablet.
You want it to sync?
Yes, I want it on the screen.
Oh, you want to see the contents of the tablet on the screen?
Right. Without having to...
No, I don't know of any way to do that. There are a number of things. If you're using a Mac, for instance, there's a program that will let you use your iPad as one more screen. And of course, Apple has continuity handoff, which allows you to take the work you're doing on the desktop and do it on the iPad and vice versa. But there's nothing that will. Is it a Mac or a Windows computer?
Well, my desktop is a HP.
It's a Windows computer. So that will certainly not have anything to do with your iPad. It will just turn its nose up. The iPad will do wireless syncing, but to get the screen on there, I don't know of anything that will do that. Now, your laptop, that might be a little bit different. You probably can't do this wirelessly only because there's so much data. You certainly could connect your laptop to one of those screens, but it would take over that screen. That's an interesting question. I don't know of a way off the top of my head to, as you get closer to your Windows machine, see the contents of your iPad or your Asus transformer on the Windows screen. WiDi was the Intel technology that let you cast your laptop to a television screen. People in the chat room are saying, take a look at something called Splash Top. I'll have to do some investigation, but that might be something you want to look at, Alan. Splash Top. I don't know if that'll do it or not, but that's what they're saying. Hey, we're out of time. Thanks to Heather Hammond, the phone ranger, for doing such a great job lining up the calls today. Nathan Staten, our musical director, who kept us rocking and funkin' and dancing to the music. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Don't forget our website, techguylabs.com. Free, open to all, no sign up. That's all the information from the show. And I'll see you next time. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, the Tech Guy is just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows now on the TWiT Netcast Network, and you'll find them all at twit.tv. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPad on iPad Today. You get your daily dose of tech news from Tech News Today, and our weekly roundtable show, This Week in Tech. It's all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next time with another great Tech Guy podcast. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.